We're going to rock and roll. Okay. Thanks.
I have to hold it for you.
Oh, I mean, we'll take turns.
You need to maybe get in a little more. Okay, now you're too big. Now it's just like.
There's no such thing.
Oh, because we moved it, didn't we? Here, we'll go back like that. There we go. No such thing. Yeah, just hold on to it. Hey guys, welcome back to Upright Christian Parenting. I'm your host, Hannah Peru, and I have with me, we're going to start that over.
Password protected phone.
Yes.
That's what we have.
Yes. Hey guys, welcome back to Upright Christian Parenting. I have with me today a special couple. Chaplain Major Matthew Spencer and Kristina Spencer bring over 20 years of combined experience in ministry, counseling, and leadership to their work with military couples and families. Matt, a USAF. It's hard to say that because USMC is what I'm used to saying. I know. I'm sorry.
Sorry, but
Chaplain, I'll give you grace here, with a background in security forces, provides pastoral care, spiritual growth opportunities, and worship leadership to airmen and their families, leveraging his extensive service across enlisted and officer roles worldwide. Kristina is an ordained minister. I love that. Marriage content writer and certified marriage mediator, has led impactful women's ministries, young adult groups, and large-scale events while mentoring others in their faith and relationships. Together, they are passionate about equipping couples with practical strategies and biblical principles to build resilient, God-centered marriages, inspiring hope and transformation through their personal and professional experiences. So everybody, welcome to the Treehouse, Matthew and Kristina.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. You guys are going to have to share that mic. So it's going to be extra fun here today. If you guys are listening in, you can head on over to YouTube and see it in person as we kind of juggle this fun little tango of microphones. But anyways, I just learned about you guys yesterday, and I am so excited that I did, because you guys really are doing what is really a seed in my husband and I's heart, and it just makes me so excited to see someone paving the way in this direction. And I really want to dive in and talk about your book specifically. Why don't you go ahead and hold it up? So it's called Valor Vows, and I'll let you kind of, Kristina, take it away. Tell us kind of the premise around this book, and maybe between the two of you, what really prompted you to write this? Like, how long of a journey has this been?
Well, the book itself has been coming for a very, very long time. And it was really this, I had scraps of it everywhere. And it was really this year I felt the Lord saying, this is not the time to be complacent. As a Christian, I'm calling you to be obedient. Write this book, get it done. It was birthed from a season of pain in our relationship. We were on the verge of a divorce. We didn't feel like there was any hope for our marriage, but I knew that God had given us a call in our marriage, and I knew that there was nothing that God could not heal, and there was nothing that God could not help.
Amen. Yeah.
And we surrendered to about a 9-month period of time where we really just allowed God to work on us individually, and then He brought us back collectively. Through that season, He was taking me through His Word, and He was showing me, what it was like to be a godly wife. And it was so funny because in that time, I kept seeing so many parallels to military culture.
Yeah.
And that's really how this tactical guide came to be. We talk about things like chain of command. What does that look like? We take that to Ephesians 5. We talk about oath of office. What does it mean to put the service before yourself? What does it mean to put serving God and serving one another above our individual needs? We talk about communication, about asset management, all of those things, but it's really parallels between what God says about marriage and family, and then relating it to our military culture.
Oh, that's incredible. What would you like to add to that, since you're a vital part in the process here?
It's hard to add to her description, but yeah, being birthed from a season of pain, like she said, I think it's a travesty when people go through things and they don't use them for God's glory and to be able to teach other people about them, because we go through difficult things in life. Everybody does. I always tell my guys, you're either going into something, you're in something, or you're coming out of something.
That's right.
So it's hard to be in the valley piece of it, and understand the outcome is going to be great for you. Just trust and believe in God. But when you get through it, looking back, man, you can use those stories, you can use those experiences, and they're not all great. We don't all have perfect lives. None of us do. Sin exists, and for us to be able to go back and use our story just to try to help our guys, because honestly, I've been dealing with couples for years now in the Air Force and the military in general, and it's a lot of the same issues. But we can also find ourselves in some of those same issues if we're not careful. Misalignment of priorities can get you there really quick. So, I I think just writing this book was just something we had to do to, one, tell our story, to try to help just one couple. If we help one couple, get through a tough season and look back and say, man, look what God did for us, and then they can turn around and use that story to help somebody else. It was all worth writing a book for.
That's awesome.
These are just pages, but the story in there and the godly connection in there. It's funny that the military is so built around God's word, and we don't even realize it sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the chapters, communication. Well, that's important in God's word. That's
I love
important
the
in the
chapter
marriage.
titles. Let's read some of them.
Yeah.
I love them, and I connected as a military wife. I mean, I connected with all of them, almost like
Yeah.
laughing about how relatable they are. Watch my six.
Right.
Oh,
We've
my
had a few
goodness.
people ask us, what does that mean?
Oh, so
Like,
I have a German
let us tell you.
Shepherd, and her name is Callie, but I call her Six, and we live in the
Nice.
mountains where there's mountain lions. So
Oh,
I'll head
wow,
out the
yeah.
door at night and go
Yeah,
get
man.
the thing that I left in my car, and
Yeah.
we have a detached garage, and I'll say, "Come on, Six."
Right.
So I call her Six because
That's awesome,
she
man.
stays right behind me. She watches my Six.
Mhm.
Top cover, tactical engagement, enduring mission. I mean,
Yeah,
that's marriage, enduring
Yeah.
mission. So as a chaplain, you know well the statistics that we are as military couples,
Yeah.
and just statistics of any couples in this day and age. I think the average year that I don't know if this is an old statistic, it's at least a year old, but I think the average amount of years that people are married now is 8 years.
Wow.
It's devastating, like
It
8
is.
years. And we're trying to raise a family on top of just trying to keep our marriage stable. And so what has that looked like over the years for you being a chaplain?
Yeah, and that number really sounds accurate,
Yeah.
because that puts you through a couple of PCSs,
Yeah.
some trainings,
Yep.
Maybe a first child or two, and then
Mhm.
you're 8 years in and you've hit that wall, or you've been through some things that you haven't had the ammunition to get through, to fight it. Maybe you haven't been using God's word to get through those things, or
Yeah.
you've had to go through things as a couple that beat you down, and now there's division. So that's what we see a lot. One, lack of communication. That's why we kind of started with comms are essential,
Yeah.
because military, if you're not talking, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If you're not in communication with your team, looking all the way back to SF background, during 9/11, our comms were essential.
Yeah.
Lives are on the line. Well, marriages are on the line if your comms aren't where they need to be. So,
Yeah.
chaplain side of things, that's what we see the most of: misalignment of priorities. Which is kind of why we laid it out the way we did in the book, and gave practical, biblical foundations for getting through those scenarios that you face as a couple. So, comms is for sure one, and two, just aligning your priorities together, and taking care of one another in your marriage, and understanding you're not perfect in this, but you have to be given 100%.
Yeah.
100% from me, 100% from her. Can't be
Oh,
a 50-50 deal.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
those two things, and then you start getting into the being apart type scenarios, whether it's deployments or geographically separated assignments and things of that nature. So we deal with that a lot as well, of course. And so teaching couples how to go into that one, not wait till you're in it to figure it out, and then how to, maximize your time with one another while you're in it, and keeping your relationship strong through that. So that's probably the top three that we do.
What does that look like for you guys, tangibly speaking, like just from practical terms? Because we say, what were the top three? You said communications, something, and then what was the second one you said? And then
Misalignment of priorities.
priorities.
Yeah, priorities are big.
Okay, and then spending time together. So break those down. What does that look like?
Well, for the misalignment of priorities, it's so funny that a lot of the couples that we counsel, because we do a lot of counselings together, first thing that we hear is, well, I didn't sign up for this. The spouse that's not active duty is resentful because it's not the picture that they thought it was going to be. And what we explain to them is, when that's where we talk about the oath of office. When Matt took his oath of office, I took it alongside with him. So our priority is, first and foremost, we have to realign ourselves to surrender unto the Lord first. And then we surrender to one another. We go back to Ephesians 5. What does that look like? It's God, it's marriage, it's children, and then it's everything else. And okay, well then where does the mission fall in that? And so we talk to them about, when you're looking at the mission and you understand that, okay, he's got 12 hours at work and he's only going to be home for a couple hours. He might get a little bit of rest and he's got to go back out again. Well, then I feel like the mission's taking priority. Well, that's where you're going back to that oath. We're serving something that's greater than ourselves. So yes, we are temporarily sacrificing some time, but what we will do is we will now reallocate that time to where we have quality of time together instead of quantity of time. Whether that's him being physically at home or him being TDY or deployment or whatever the case is. For communication, I think one of the biggest things that we see is there's a lot of fatigue. So
especially where I'm working right now. Working at with instructors, they're 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week, and that quality time is not there for them and their families a lot of times, and they start choosing to make decisions to be at work more or to stay more involved with that and not take care of family priorities and situations. So that's really a big one. So I just wanted to it's I guess it's dependent on what your mission set is, but in each one of those is where you have to realign yourselves to have that quality time and understand how important it is, because it's a non-negotiable. Some of these things are non-negotiables that we talk about, and you can't put those by the wayside. You might have one really good assignment because the timelines were just great for the family. You were in a good season. And you go somewhere different, the mission's different. And that puts you in a different lifestyle. It puts you in a different time frame with your family. And so normal couples, I'll just say normal, not military couples, man.
These civilian people that are listening.
They don't always have to think about that. They plant some roots and it's pretty stable, or it can be. But for us, it can be turned on its end really quick with just one move.
I was thinking about that last night because I know I have a lot of listeners that are not military. And so a lot of this are like, oh, well, we're not military. This doesn't ring a bell for me. But I'm like, okay, what about pilots? What about firemen? I mean, one of our best friends, her husband is a fireman, and he's gone, like 5 days and then home 4 days. And that to me, I've always felt like, oh my word, I'd rather have this sounds terrible, but I'm like, maybe you can relate. I'd rather have a deployment and just be like, okay, this is how life is for a while, than have the back and forth. Like the back and forth sounds really, really hard. And so I think there's a lot of other lifestyles, or maybe like a surgeon that's working nights, and there's a lot of families that they work different shifts, so someone's always at home, and so I think this is so applicable to much more than military couples. I really, really do believe that. I think it's so biblical, like what you were saying. I'd love for you to dive into that more. So really our marriage being tied into more biblical principles. What do you mean by that? Can you explain on?
Well, let's talk about Ephesians 5.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Whenever whenever we're having counselings or even a marriage retreat, and we start talking about, roles of husbands and wives and godly marriage, we'll see one of them just kind of squirm and they get really uncomfortable. And I had a spouse come to me and she said, well, you know what? I'm a commander and I'm in command at work. And when I come home, I'm going to be in command.
Mm.
And I said, I'm really glad that you said that. And she looked at me like I was kind of crazy. I said, I'm really glad that you said that. I said, let's talk about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What does that command structure look like? And she's like, well, I give vision and my team executes it. I said, okay. And then who's in authority over you?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, I report to the group commander. Okay, great. So the group commander is giving you what? She's like, well, he gives me vision, he gives me instruction, all the things. Okay, great. And then who does he report to? And so on and so forth. So we get all the way up to President of the United States. I said, okay. So in all those people that we've just talked about, are any of their roles diminished because they fall under chain of command versus over it? And she says, well, no. I said, as a matter of fact, if you take the role of, president, vice president, she said, well, if God forbid something happened to the president, the vice president has to step in its place. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
I said, that's marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, huh? I said, that's marriage. I said, that's Ephesians 5. I said, first and foremost, we surrender as unto God. Even when I don't believe that my husband's leading well, I surrender unto the Lord and I say, okay, Father, I disagree with him on this, but I'm going to surrender that to you because you've given him this responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm going to respect that, even though I might not agree with it. And if I'm wrong, change me. And if he's not right, then I trust you to have that authority and change his heart.
Yeah.
And keep us in agreement.
Yeah.
It doesn't diminish the roles that we have because now we can work alongside each other and work smarter and not harder. So when you say things like that to someone, then the light bulb goes on and they're no longer threatened by it. They see the beauty in it and then they say, okay, well, that's what God's word says about that. Absolutely. Okay, well, service before self. I said, okay, let's talk about love. Let's talk about love. What do you love? Oh, I love my kids. I love pizza. I love all these things. I said, okay. I said, so you love your kids. Let's talk about your kids. What happens when your children are not obedient? Oh, I will. Oh, I want to kill them. I said, okay, but do you still love them? She said, oh, of course. Okay, that's what love is. It's loving even though that individual might not be lovable in that moment.
Yeah.
We love as Christ love, which is completely sacrificial.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
the complete antithesis of what we see in this world. It's without condition. So on my husband's best days, I love him. On his not so best days, I still love him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is my service. That's putting the service of my marriage before my own personal need. I can't have an unrealistic expectation that my husband is going to meet all my needs.
Right.
He's not my Jesus.
Right. Yeah. That was a hard thing for me to figure out very, very early on. I think that was something I just, kind of worshiped my husband and just looked at him as like, oh, he's going to fix all my problems. And he kind of does a lot. I have to say that. But 7 months into our marriage, he deployed. So, I mean, I pretty much was like, before I even had that full honeymoon period, he was already gone again. And I had to fully find reliance on God, like just God for the first time. And it was an incredible, beautiful thing. But I had to almost be stripped of him first to realize like, oh, I can't rely on my husband for this part of feeding my spirit. Like that has to come from the Lord. And obviously that was a walk and a journey and it always will be. But I resonate. That resonates with me a lot. Wow, that's incredible. Do you have anything to add to that?
Just when you ask couples, what's your priority list? Or, what are the most important things in your life? Typically, when a couple's going through something and they sit down and ask them that question, God is somewhere around sixth or seventh, not in the top five, typically. They'll say the kids, finances,
Yeah.
Job, school, all these different things that are monopolizing that time and taking away from the most important pieces, which is God at the head of things. And once we can realign that a little bit, and once they see the importance of having God 1st, because if you have Him at the very top, all the other things seem to fall in line the way they should.
Yeah.
What we try to do, or what a lot of couples will try to do, is put everything else in order, and then, okay, let's fit God in there somewhere. And it goes back to Ephesians 6:10 for me, which is, probably my favorite verse in the Bible. Be strong in the Lord and the power of His might, because getting them to understand that first is the key. Once they understand their relationship with Christ is the most important thing, then they start seeing their marriage different, their spouse different, their kids different.
Yeah.
And everything else, is taken care of. Why? Because you have that direct connect with Christ, and He's the head of your life, and she can't be the head of my life.
God's the power source.
That's
So
it.
if you keep that, I mean, if that is open and flowing, and you're going to Him first,
that's it, man.
Yeah.
And it's funny how things seem to work a lot better when you put Him at the head of of the table. So that's really all I wanted to add to that piece.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the hard question. So you said that this kind of came out of a really hard season. So what did that look like? Because I want to encourage couples that maybe if they're going through the hard season, like, what did that look like, and how did you come out of it?
I'll let her start, and then I'll finish.
Okay, all right.
Well, it started with him coming home from a TDY. And
can you tell us what a TDY
yes,
is
I'm sorry.
for those civilians?
Yes. Yeah, temporary duty. What's the Y for, actually?
Temporary duty assignment, but we're just gonna say
temporary duty assignment. There you go. But the Y is silent. I have I don't know. But he came home from that, and he said, "I'm done." He said, "I want a divorce." And I remember I was just absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe that was a word that was even entering our home.
Yeah.
And it seemed so final. And I remember the next morning when I woke up, I was having devotion, and the Lord took me to the story of Abraham.
Okay.
When he was taking Isaac up to the mountain, and he had that decision to make. Am I going to be obedient? Am I going to put my son in to be sacrificed? And the Lord, of course, provided.
Yeah.
And the Lord said to me, "Do you trust me?"
Wow.
And I cried. I couldn't, I wanted to trust him, but my hands were so tight.
Yeah.
I was so scared.
Yeah.
I was losing everything.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, Lord, I trust that you will either raise this marriage from the dead, or you will provide a sacrifice."
Yeah.
We were very fortunate to have some amazing prayer warriors that were in that season with us. And we did what was called a constructive separation, because Matt at the time, he's like, I was done. He didn't want anything to do with it, didn't want to go to counseling at first. So I stayed with our pastor and his wife. They had a little cottage I stayed in, and Matt was in the house. I would come home every week, make sure that he had his groceries, and make sure that his uniforms were ironed, all those things. But while I was there, I was in a season of fasting. I was in a season of prayer. That's really what I did for about 9 months.
Wow.
And I went to the Lord and I said, "I need you to change me," because I realized in that season, all the things that could have gone wrong in a marriage went wrong. We weren't prioritizing God. We were actually prioritizing the mission over God. We were so focused on, being there, ministries people were pairs 24/7, 365, no federal holidays. And we were so busy doing good things for the Lord that we weren't putting him first. As a wife, there was resentment, there was anger that I had not dealt with that I would take out on him. There were so many things that needed to be changed in me, that I knew, regardless of whatever happened, whatever the outcome was going to be, I needed to change those things in my life. And I let God just do the refining process, and it hurt. It hurt. It hurt to be away from him. I didn't want to be away from him. I wanted to work on things together. But it's just like you said, he was my Jesus. And he was my Jesus for years. And God was saying to me, there is one thing that I will not do. I will not compete for your attention, and I will not compete for glory.
Wow.
I am jealous, and I want you first. I want you to put me first. And I will teach you. I will teach you how to be the wife that I've called you to be. I will teach you how to be the mother that I've called you to be. I will teach you how to be that support system for him that he so desperately needs and desires. And we both did that. And Matt started to see those changes little by little, realizing that it was real, that it wasn't just a put on to garner him to come back home. And he said, okay, let's go ahead and let's do counseling and let's do this repair together. And we did. And by the grace of God, we reunited. And
what was the timeline between kind of that separation and that decision to try and move forward?
9 months.
Yeah,
about 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I honestly don't tell couples or really give them the option of a separation. I don't want them to be separated. I want them to try to stay together, work things out. For us, I think the important piece was we both had partners in it. So we both had ministry partners. We both had strong people, pastors. We both had accountability partners in our life.
That's so important.
Yeah. In order to kind of keep us on track, but to grow us, we needed to take a step back to make sure we were right first before we could be right again. And because we had let stuff interfere, and what that will do to couples is it just makes you, it honestly can make you unattractive to the other individual. We were just getting to that phase where we didn't even want to be around each other at times because we had just let stuff fester, and we hadn't gone in and prioritized it like we try to teach now and the importance of that. And so I think the reason it worked for us is because we had accountability and we had people that we would go to weekly, if not a couple of times a week, and sit down and work on ourselves with it and work on our relationship with the Lord and learn more about what's wrong with us first. We put ourselves kind of out there as to fix me. I got to fix what I'm doing wrong and how I feel in order to love her the way I need to, and vice versa. And I think once we did that and explored our own, faults and our own hurts, and kind of worked on those things, because we had hurt each other too, And I think that's another thing couples don't always consider as being of utmost importance is the detrimental effect that it can have to hurt one another. If you let those things fester and carry on, those are memories or those things that keep getting brought back up that you go back and refer to, and then it just builds and builds.
It does.
And then you have a blowout, and so those are things we had to deal with during that time period. And I think we became, attractive to one another again, so to speak. And, and we're able to look at each other and trust each other to know that we were committed and that we had fixed or were at least, working hard at getting better at where we were needing some work. And then that's kind of how it worked out for us. And, we kind of give the reasonings now and some of the principles in the book that can help couples do that too if needed. So to me, that's what it was like. It was difficult. It was not fun, but it was needed for our journey, to be here today. we had to walk through that valley. So,
what was one of the most healing parts of that? Like, was there a really pivotal or really memorable moment of healing there?
I think once I saw that she had truly understood what was hurting me from her side, which was, the animosity or anger or just, kind of seeing her deal with that in a different way and treat me in a different way and talk to me in a different way and acknowledge in the past where maybe she had not taken the right approach. That made me want to be better. And it made me see, well, maybe I didn't take the right approach either. So I think that helped us heal and grow in that specific area. For me, that was huge. That showed me that she did truly love the Lord first, and then down from there.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way marriage is going to work.
Yeah.
I always quote Dr. Jimmy Evans when he says, if you do marriage God's way, you have 100% chance of it working. That's not his exact words, but that's what he says. And that's true. If you do it God's way, by the book, so to speak, in God's word, in the Bible, you do marriage His way, it's going to work.
Yeah.
If you're committed to doing that,
Yeah.
because that's the way it's supposed to work. And yeah.
I remember my dad sitting my husband and I down in our basement of all places. I don't know why we were in our basement. He had an old desk down there, so maybe he was doing paperwork or something, and he told us right before we got married, maybe a month or two in advance, he said, hey, the only way this is going to work is if you put God 1st. And I didn't fully understand what that really truly meant, but I mean, it stayed there. But yeah, that's so awesome.
And I think one of the biggest things for me when it came to healing, it really took a moment when I realized how much I had hurt the Lord, how much my actions had grieved Him. Communication was a really big issue for both of us, and I didn't understand the weight and the burden of what He carried. I knew that the nature of His work was very, very difficult. I knew that it was very, very taxing, but I had kind of a head knowledge about that. It had not hit my heart. It did not hit my heart how much of it He was really bringing home.
Sure.
Because there's so much of His work that is confidential that He can't really tell me.
Yeah.
And that would cause so much animosity in me. But when I realized that when I wasn't being empathetic to Him, how much that grieved God, and I went to the Lord and really, truly, from a pure heart, repented of that.
Yeah.
The forgiveness that He showed me healed me.
That's awesome.
God,
True forgiveness comes through the Lord.
Yeah.
We can say that to one another, and we can somewhat mean it, but true forgiveness, man, that's coming from the Lord. Making your spirit right with that. And truly, loving Him enough to see where you may be wrong and see where you need to forgive that individual.
Yeah.
And if it comes through Him and from Him to the other person, that's, you can see that genuineness, and that's what she brought. It's good.
That's awesome. So you guys have kids?
We do. Our son's 26.
Oh my goodness.
So yes,
Were you 12?
you will survive this. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the next book.
That's the next book. How can we bring in the V's? Valor, vows, and victories.
Victories and children. No.
I'm trying to think of a V for a kid.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So how old was he when you guys were kind of going through this season?
So he was in his freshman year of college. Yeah, he was in his freshman year of college when it started.
Okay.
And I hate to speak for him, but I think I could say for him that he learned obedience for the sake of obedience is what the Lord desires sometimes. Not because, you get, how do I say it? When couples are working through situations and they decide to just, get a divorce, there's no judgment, there's no condemnation of that. However, marriage is a direct reflection of our relationship with God.
Yeah.
And he never leaves us and he never forsakes us.
Yeah.
His best for us is that we would remain together as husband and wife.
Yeah.
And when you're obedient for the sake of obedience, God would absolutely honor that. So what we tell Michael is, it's not that we didn't go through things in our marriage, because you saw that we went through things and you saw that we went through this hard season where the marriage almost ended. But what you also saw was God's restoration.
Yeah.
Because two people decided to be obedient for the sake of obedience.
Yeah.
Our flesh was completely taken out of the picture.
Yeah.
It wasn't about, you hear sometimes people say, well, we just want you to be happy.
Right.
That wasn't what it was for us.
Yeah.
We knew that joy would be the overflow of obedience.
Yeah.
But we had to be willing to do what was hard.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't fun. Eating humble pie never tastes good.
No, it's terrible. It's disgusting.
But I'll tell you, I'm so thankful that we did.
Yeah.
Because the marriage that we have today is, it's beyond my wildest dreams.
You can make it through San Antonio and Dallas traffic and get here in one piece as a couple, you're doing pretty well in my book.
Good. So. That's good. You haven't been to Denver, though, lately at least. Oh, my goodness.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good perspective then. You can get through the traffic.
Yeah, get through the traffic.
There's some metaphors there. Oh, my goodness. Well, I think it's so important that our kids can see us kind of battle or kind of war through marriage and come out. That's happened in our home many, many times, that mom and dad are not really happy with each other right now, and the next day we're great again. We recover, but those scars that happen along the way, they do stir up again if you don't really stop and go, how are we going to heal from this? That total healing, I think, is such an important piece of your story that you guys really seem to get, and I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
And another piece is don't go back on those things. Don't keep bringing that up. If you say you forgive one another for something, don't bring it up when you think the time it's needed for you to bring that up again. You got to bury those things and keep it, keep moving, and trust and believe the individual for forgiving you, and give them the courtesy and the love, for your spouse to not go back and say, well, you remember when this happened, or this is, you're making me remember this circumstance in our life. Don't do that. Don't go back on those things. Move forward. That's what we're always talking about in the military anyway. The mission has to keep moving, whether I'm in it or not. It's still moving. Pretty sure the base was just fine today with me here, TDY. So it's going to keep going.
Go on.
Show must go on. So,
yeah. And if it's not, then that's a problem.
That's a problem. Yeah.
There's a leadership problem there.
I have a great partner at work, so I'm sure it's just fine.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I'm so glad that you guys are able to be here with me today. I'm excited that you're at NRB, and I'm just beyond blessed to meet you guys and learn from you. And
we appreciate you.
I was telling my husband about this really late. I was probably like drooling. I was so tired. I'm just like, it's called Valor and Valor. Yeah, like I literally was so tired. And he's like, oh, this is awesome. We should do this together. I'm like, yeah, there's a box. Oh, tell us about the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when we, actually it was when the Lord kind of put it on our heart how to lay this out. Again, it's called A Tactical Guide to a Mission Ready Marriage. And we wanted something that was versatile. So it could be used as a women's study, a men's study. It could be used, couples, small groups, marriage retreats, all those things. Each chapter, we do have discussion questions, and then there's a prayer at the end of every chapter that awesome. You guys can pray together, or, if you're not together, pray for one another. And then we also have a marriage retreat in a box. So it's pretty much, if you're wanting to do a marriage retreat, how do you break this down? So you could do, it's 16 chapters, 4 sessions, all the things. We include a little fun, date night opportunity and some activities and all that
so
kind of
fun.
stuff.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah,
I love that.
we wanted it to be very, very practical. It's
Yeah.
not a big read. It's, you know, about 100 or so pages, and we did that intentionally
Yeah.
because we wanted to value people's time, but
Yeah.
also give them something that they could use every single day.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's awesome. All right. How can my audience find you guys, support you guys, buy the book, all the things?
Well, our website, Valor and Vows, www.valorandvows.com. That'll have all of our information on there. It'll have a link to purchase the book, some other resources that are going to be coming out. We've got 4 books coming out this year.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah. So
Oh,
when
my
God told
word.
me not to be complacent, I was like, all right, let's go.
Full out.
I went
Lit the match under your hiney. Oh my goodness. That's great.
So
That's
yeah, that's the
awesome.
best place. We're also on social media, Valor and Vows,
Perfect.
and our combined social media page, Matt, Kristina, Spencer. So yeah,
wonderful. Yeah, and I'll put all
the
merch. I
yeah.
love the hat. I'm a sucker for a black hat. Like I really like
we'll hook
black
you guys
hats.
up. Yeah.
No, that's
Are
great.
you like a trucker cap, or you like more like that style?
Probably trucker.
Okay, we'll send you some.
This is
Give
great.
us the
This is
address.
benefiting me greatly.
You'll get some free merch.
No, that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here.
It was
and
our
I'll put
honor.
all of your
Thank
links
you.
in the show notes so everybody can
Awesome.
find you easy. So that'll be great.
Yeah, our honor. Thank you.
Shout out to your husband too,
Yes.
for his service.
Oh, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yep.
It's always nice to meet other couples, you know, brothers in arms. And even though he's a Marine, I still like him. I'm sure he's a good guy. No. I've worked with a lot of them. I'll tell you, man, I really enjoyed working with the Marines. I'll tell you that. So I'd love to meet him sometime. So
that'd be awesome. I'm sure we will make that happen in the future.
That'd be great.
All right, guys, this has been great. Thank you.
Well, thank you.